What happens when your dream vacation turns into your worst night? Welcome to Eerie Hour. Today, I'm sharing 3 disturbing true cruise ship horror stories that will make you think twice before boarding, for privacy. Names and small details have been changed, but these stories are 100% real. From mysterious disappearances to terrifying medical emergencies, these testimonials reveal the dark side of cruising. Where are you watching from? And what time is it? Drop your location in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more chilling true stories. My name is Rebecca, and I need to tell you about something that happened to me on what was supposed to be a relaxing Caribbean cruise in March 2019. I'm a 34-year-old high school teacher from Ohio, and after a stressful semester, my younger sister convinced me to take my first ever cruise vacation. She had been on 3 before and kept saying how amazing it would be. 7 days of sunshine, tropical ports, and unlimited buffets on a Royal Caribbean ship. It sounded perfect. I had no idea that this trip would leave me sleeping with the lights on for months afterward. We boarded the ship on a sunny Saturday afternoon, excited and ready for adventure. Our cabin was on deck 9, a balcony room my sister insisted we splurge on. She said waking up to the ocean was worth it. The room was small but comfortable, 2 beds, a tiny bathroom, and sliding doors that opened to a private balcony overlooking the sea. I remember standing there the first evening, feeling the warm breeze, watching the sun set over the water as we sailed from Fort Lauderdale. Everything felt magical. The first 2 days were perfect. We explored the ship, tried different restaurants, went to shows, and just relaxed. The crew were friendly and attentive. There was one room steward, a man in his late 30s, who looked after our hallway. He always smiled and nodded when we passed. Nothing strange, nothing suspicious, just doing his job. But on the 3rd night, something happened. I woke around 2 in the morning, needing the bathroom. As I passed our balcony doors, I saw something that made my heart jump through the sheer curtains. A silhouette was standing on the narrow balcony. My first thought was I was dreaming, half asleep. I pulled the curtain back slightly and saw him clearly, the same steward from our hallway. He stood still, looking toward our cabin. When he noticed the curtain move, he walked away along the maintenance walkway connecting the balconies. I told myself it was nothing, maybe late night maintenance, maybe crew do balcony checks. I did not want to seem paranoid, so I went back to bed, but the uneasy feeling stayed. The next morning we went to breakfast and returned around 10, and my blood ran cold. Our cabin door was not fully closed. It was open about 2 inches, and I distinctly remembered shutting it and checking the handle. We always used the deadbolt. My sister thought maybe housekeeping had come, but the room had not been serviced. Beds unmade, privacy tag still on. I reported it to the front desk. The woman smiled and said doors sometimes don't latch properly because of the ship's movement. It happens often, and I shouldn't worry. But I worried. That night I made sure the deadbolt was locked. I placed a chair against the door, making my sister laugh and call me paranoid, but night 4 proved I was not. Around 3 in the morning, I woke needing the bathroom. My sister was asleep. I glanced at the door and froze. The chair I placed was moved. The cabin door was open, 6 inches of hallway, light streaming in. I screamed. My sister woke terrified. I ran to the door and looked down the empty corridor. Nobody was there, but someone unlocked the deadbolt, opened the door, moved the chair. While we slept, we called security. 2 officers arrived in 10 minutes. They took statements, checked the door, and said they would review cameras. One suggested maybe my sister got up and forgot, as if we were lying, as if we were hysterical. The fear was suffocating. We were trapped on a ship in the middle of the ocean, with someone who had access to our room, who knew where we slept, who was watching every crew member in the hallway. Made me anxious. Every sound at night made me jump. I could not enjoy excursions. My sister tried to comfort me, but she was scared too. On the 5th night, I barely slept, lights on, phone in hand, ready to call security. Around midnight, I heard it, the sliding sound of our balcony door being tried. Someone outside. I sat up, heart pounding, sister asleep. I didn't wake her. I needed proof. I opened the camera app, set to video, and moved toward the balcony doors. Through a small gap, I saw him, the same steward, standing on our balcony, trying the handle. When he saw it locked, he just watched, face pressed to the glass, eyes scanning our room. I was frozen, but managed to keep the phone steady and record him. After 2 minutes, he finally walked away. I woke my sister and showed her. She was horrified. We called security again, this time with video. They could not ignore. They came, watched the video, and seemed Concerned for 5 minutes, then a supervisor arrived. Tone changed. They asked us not to tell other passengers, it might cause panic. They said they would handle it internally. Moved us to a room on deck 7, interior, no windows, no balcony for safety. But it felt like hiding, we found out later. Steward was confined to quarters but not removed. He was still on board for the final 2 days. We barely left the windowless room, jumping at every sound. Ship that had seemed magical now felt like a floating prison. When we disembarked, relief overwhelmed me, but trauma lasted months. I had severe anxiety, could not sleep in dark, could not stay in hotels. I checked locks. Repeatedly, cruise line offered partial refund voucher, as if money could fix it. We never got real explanation. Why target us? Had he done it to others? Swept under the rug. What haunts me most is what could have happened. What if the door was unlocked? What if he entered while we slept? I trusted the ship instead. Someone with master key access terrorized us, and when we reported it, priority was company reputation, not safety. I am sharing this story to show these things happen. Locked cabin doors may not be safe. Crew not always trustworthy. When something feels wrong, it probably is. You should trust instincts. I was lucky. I woke, I recorded evidence, my sister, and I got home safely. But I will never forget waking up to a stranger standing at the foot of my bed, watching me in the dark, knowing he could do anything, and I had nowhere to run. That fear changes you forever. My name is David, and I am about to tell you about the worst 72 hours of my life. I am a 41-year-old software engineer from Seattle. In January 2020, my wife and I decided to celebrate our 15th wedding anniversary with a cruise along the Mexican Riviera we had saved for over a year. It was supposed to be romantic, relaxing, a chance to reconnect. Instead, it turned into a nightmare that still wakes me at 3 in the morning, drenched in sweat, remembering the sounds. We booked an interior cabin on deck 4, Carnival ship, to save money. Excursions and fancy dinners. Small room, about 150 square feet. No windows, just bed, tiny bathroom, narrow floor. My wife joked it was cozy. I said we would barely be in the room and would be exploring, enjoying the sun, living our best lives. God, how wrong I was. First 2 days, perfect, incredible food. Comedy shows, hours in the hot tub, watching ocean. Wife, laughing more than in months. Felt young. On the 3rd morning, announcement over intercom, Captain calm but firm, reports of gastrointestinal illness among passengers and crew. Precaution, enhanced cleaning. Report any symptoms. We thought nothing. Cruise ships sometimes have stomach bugs. We went to breakfast, maybe 20% of tables empty. Lunch buffet sparse by dinner. Whispers spread, norovirus word spread fast. People leaving meals, rushing to bathrooms, pale, sweaty, some screaming. That night around 11, first scream, a woman desperate, panic, doors opening, people shouting, crew running. My wife and I confused, increasingly worried. Within an hour, another announcement, all passengers to cabins, quarantine, in effect not to leave. At first we thought a few hours, maybe overnight, but next morning cabin door would not open, sealed under. Notice 400 passengers showing symptoms, everyone confined, minimum 72 hours, meals delivered, medical staff monitor, remain calm. Those words haunted me. Calm became impossible. Interior cabin suddenly felt like a coffin. No windows, artificial lights, walls closing, air stale. We were breathing same air as 400 sick people. Wife felt sick by noon, stomach hurt, nauseous. I told her anxiety, but by 3 vomiting violently. Tiny toilet echoed in small room, sounds traumatic. She deteriorated within 2 hours. Could not keep anything down, not water, crackers, nothing. Called medical center, line rang 15 times. Nurse, exhausted, told me keep her hydrated, monitor temp, someone would check as soon as possible. Phrase meant nothing. People dying. I could hear through walls. Woman sobbing, pleading for husband. Couple on right, both sick, vomiting turns, one moaning, other comforting. Above, banging, screaming. Below, someone collapsing. Heavy thud, frantic shouting sounds never stopped. Day-night symphony, human suffering, retching, crying, screaming. Doors banging, crew running. Smell seeped under door, mixture, vomit, disinfectant, something sickly, sweet, rotten, made me gag. Wife worsened, first night fever 103, lips cracked, bleeding, dehydration, eyes sunken, could not stand, needed my help. Called medical center, same response, overwhelmed. Someone would come, not for 12 hours. She laid on bathroom floor, weak, shaking, crying, begged me to stop. Felt helpless, useless, supposed to protect her, fix problems, solve, could not make Better could not get basic medical attention. Second day through crack in door saw commotion. Crew has. Matsuits carried man out on stretcher, not moving face. Gray wife followed on stretcher, conscious, reaching trembling hands, crying his name over and over. Never found out if survived. Image broke me. Realized trapped floating petri dish. People responsible. Overwhelmed wife could be next on stretcher. Panic attacks, hyperventilating, chest crushing. Tiny room, no escape, no air, no hope. Meals joke, cold sandwiches, bottled water slid under door twice a day. Could not eat. Wife sick, lost appetite. Smell unbearable despite attempts to clean. Trash overflowing. Bathroom disaster. Could not keep up. Tried. Evening. Second day. Doctor came young, exhausted, examined wife. 3 minutes vitals, said Roman. 4 fluids needed. Medical bay full, no beds, no. Roman. 4 available. Doctor said try later. Later never came. Wife drifting in. Out of consciousness, I sat holding hand, talking, keep awake, terrified. If she fell asleep, might not wake. Prayed first time since child, begged God, let us survive. Sounds, other cabins changed. Third day, less screaming, more silence. Worse silence meant recovered, given up, or worse. Could not stop imagining. Passengers suffering, same hell approaching. Port quarantine lifted. I cried, broke down, sobbed. Relief, ordeal not over. Cabin door opened. Crew in protective gear. Helped wife, wheelchair, could not walk. Severely dehydrated, needed hospital. Taken off. First dozens. Critical passengers followed behind, walking. Down hallway. First time 72 hours. Saw trash, biohazard waste outside doors. Cleaning crews, protective gear, scrubbing surfaces. Passengers emerging, ghosts. Pale, traumatized, barely walking. Survivors of catastrophe. Wife, 3 days hospital. Roman, 4 fluids, treatment, dehydration, electrolytes. Doctor said 12 hours more risk. Kidney failure. 3 days so close. Cruise line offered 40% refund voucher. Future cruise, as if money could fix trauma. Fear watching wife, nearly die trapped. Windowless room, no help. Still have nightmares, not visual. Sensory wake, middle night, smell sickness, disinfectant. Here, phantom vomiting, screaming, cannot use guest bathroom. 2 small windowless triggers. Panic wife, developed severe anxiety, confined spaces, needs medication before flying anywhere. What people don't understand about norovirus outbreaks on cruise ships is that it's not just a stomach bug. It's not just an inconvenience. When 400 people get sick at the same time on a ship in the middle of the ocean, it turns into a crisis. The medical facilities can't handle that many patients. The crew isn't trained for that kind of chaos. Passengers become trapped, stuck in tiny cabins with poor care, hearing the suffering of everyone around them, wondering if they'll be next. We were supposed to celebrate 15 years of marriage. Instead, we spent the anniversary trapped in hell, fighting to survive, realizing the romantic cruise we saved for was actually a floating nightmare waiting to happen. And the worst part is knowing the cruise line knew this could happen. They know these outbreaks happen all the time, yet they keep selling tickets, packing ships with thousands of passengers, prioritizing profits over safety. My name is Christina, and I saw something on an Alaskan cruise that the cruise industry wanted buried. I'm a 28-year-old marketing manager from Denver. In July 2021, I decided to take a solo vacation, something I'd been putting off for years. My friends called me brave, my mom called me reckless, but I wanted to prove I could travel alone, that I didn't need anyone to have adventures. I chose a Norwegian cruise ship sailing through Alaska because it seemed safe, structured, and beautiful. I never expected to witness a disappearance that would shatter everything I thought I knew about safety at sea. I boarded in Seattle on a gray Monday morning, carrying 1 suitcase and a backpack full of books. My cabin was small, interior on deck 6, barely enough space to turn around, but I didn't care. I planned to spend most of my time exploring the ship and ports. The first day at sea was everything I hoped for. I walked the decks, attended a cooking demo, watched glaciers from the observation lounge, and felt proud of myself for taking this leap. On the second night, I went to dinner alone in a main dining room. The hostess seated me at a table for 6, explaining single travelers are grouped together. That's when I met her, the woman who would vanish just 3 days later. Her name was Marie. She was probably in her mid-30s with kind eyes and an easy laugh. Sitting across from me, also alone, we connected immediately. The other 4 seats stayed empty, but Marie and I talked for almost 2 hours. She said she was from Portland, worked in graphic design, and this cruise was a gift to herself after a tough divorce. I told her about my marketing job, my tendency to overthink, and how freeing it felt to travel solo. We exchanged cabin numbers and planned to meet for breakfast the next morning at 8. Marie wanted to show me sketches of Alaskan landscapes she'd been working on. I remember her excitement, how her face lit up. She seemed alive, real. I went to bed grateful for a friend. At breakfast, 8 the next morning, Marie wasn't there. I waited 20 minutes, thinking she overslept. Solo travelers don't have anyone to wake them. By 8:30, I went to check her cabin, deck 5, 1 floor below mine. I knocked repeatedly, no answer. A flutter of worry rose, but I tried to reason it away. Maybe she changed her mind, got sick, or ate elsewhere. I explored Juneau during our port stop, bought souvenirs, took photos of eagles and totem poles. That evening at dinner, her seat was empty again. Worry now felt justified. I asked the server if he'd seen her. He checked the seating chart. According to records, that seat had been empty both nights. I insisted a woman named Marie had been there. We'd talked for hours. He smiled politely, said he'd check, but his eyes dismissed me. Just a paranoid solo traveler imagining things. After dinner, I went to her cabin, knocked until my knuckles hurt, called her name. Passengers walking by gave strange looks. Nobody helped. Finally, a crew member approached. I explained my worry that she hadn't come to breakfast, wasn't answering her door. The crew member, young woman with a tight smile, said she'd check and take my cabin number and let me know if anything happened. But no news came, not that night, not the next day. It was as if Marie had vanished. On day 4, I went to guest services demanding answers. The woman behind the desk pulled up Marie's info and said in a rehearsed voice she was fine and preferred not to be disturbed. Preferred not to be disturbed, as if Marie requested privacy from someone she'd made breakfast plans with, as if that made sense. I didn't believe it. Something in my gut screamed this was wrong. I asked other passengers if they'd seen her. Most barely remembered their own dinner companions. The few who did hadn't seen her since the second night. She had vanished. The ship's atmosphere shifted. Every time I asked questions, crew exchanged glances. Every corridor felt watched. Security cameras I never noticed seemed to track me. I felt like I was losing my mind. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I was just a lonely solo traveler imagining a connection. Then day 5, everything changed. Returning to my cabin around 4 in the afternoon, I noticed unusual activity on deck 5. 3 crew members exited a cabin quickly, quietly. One carried a large suitcase covered in travel stickers. A suitcase I recognized. Marie had pointed it out at dinner, laughing about collecting stickers from every city she visited. Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, San Francisco. I froze, watching from the stairwell window. They avoided main corridors, used a service hallway passengers rarely saw, trying to hide something. My heart pounded as I followed them from a distance, watching them take the suitcase to a lower deck storage area. Then they disappeared through a door marked crew only. I stood there minutes, mind racing. Why remove Marie's belongings? Where was she? That evening, an announcement came over the intercom. Captain calm and professional. A passenger chose to disembark early at the last port for a family emergency. Best wishes extended, enjoy the cruise. Routine, forgettable, most passengers didn't register it. But I knew they were talking about Marie, except we hadn't stopped at a port since Juneau 2 days ago. I checked the itinerary 3 times. No stops since Juneau. We were at sea continuously. How could she have left? How could she disembark when the ship didn't stop? Ice water hit me. Marie hadn't left voluntarily. Something happened to her and the crew covered it up. I returned to guest services, insisting on speaking with authority. Staff tried to placate me. I refused to be dismissed. A security officer appeared, tall, stern, escorted me to a private office. Carefully chosen words. The passenger had left at Juneau. Further questions would be harassment. Strong suggestion to stop asking and enjoy vacation. A polite, professional threat. I spent the last 3 days in paranoid fear. I stopped asking questions, stopped talking to passengers, kept to myself, counting down hours until we docked in Seattle, feeling constantly monitored. Every crew member's glance felt loaded. Every intercom announcement a veiled warning. The ship, once exciting, now felt like a prison where people could vanish with no acknowledgement. When we docked, I practically ran off the ship. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't ignore what I witnessed. I searched online, news reports, missing persons, anything related to Marie from Portland. 3 weeks later, I found a small article in a Portland newspaper. A woman's body recovered off Alaska, about 40 meters from the inside passage route, in the water for several days. Identification hard, dental records confirmed her identity. Marie, 36, graphic designer, recently divorced on a Norwegian cruise ship when she disappeared. Authorities investigated, found no evidence of foul play. Official conclusion: accidental drowning, possibly intoxication, possibly suicide. Cruise line expressed condolences, cooperated, family accepted settlement. Case quietly closed. But I know what I saw. Marie didn't leave at Juneau. Her belongings were removed while at sea. The crew lied about her departure. Somewhere between dinner and the next morning, something happened to Marie the cruise industry wanted to hide. What haunts me most isn't just that she died. It's that she died alone, her disappearance covered up, the investigation superficial, and I was gaslit into questioning my own memory. They tried to make me believe she was never there. Imagine the connection. Unreasonable for caring about someone who vanished. I think about Marie constantly. I think about the sketches I never saw, the life she was trying to rebuild after divorce, the trust she placed in a solo cruise to be safe and empowering. I think about how easily she was erased, how quickly the ship moved on, how completely the company protected itself while abandoning her. I've never shared this story publicly because I'm scared of being sued, scared of being called crazy, scared that talking about it could make me a target, but staying silent feels like being complicit. Marie deserves someone to remember her, someone who won't accept the official story, someone who knows she didn't just fall overboard by accident. If you're thinking about going on a cruise, understand this: at sea, you're in a legal gray zone where accountability vanishes as easily as people do. Corporations protect their reputation over the truth. Witnesses are threatened into silence. Families settle because fighting is too expensive and painful. Marie wasn't the first to vanish from a cruise ship, and she won't be the last. But maybe if enough people refuse these sanitized explanations, something could finally change. My name is Nazir, and I need to tell you about the night I found a man who wasn't supposed to exist. I'm a 26-year-old engine technician from Manila. In September 2018, I signed my first contract to work on a Princess cruise ship, doing a transatlantic crossing from New York to Southampton. I was excited, nervous, desperate to prove myself. My family depended on the money. My younger siblings needed school fees. My mother needed medical care. This job meant everything. But what I saw in the engine room during my midnight shift changed me in ways I still can't fully explain. Working below deck isn't like what passengers imagine. They see glamorous dining rooms, pools, shows. They don't see the ship's mechanical heart, the machinery keeping everything running, the crew working 12-hour shifts in heat and deafening noise. The engine room on Deck 1 is a restricted maze of pipes, turbines, generators, and maintenance shafts. It's loud, unbearably hot, and smells of diesel and grease. But it was my space, my responsibility. I knew every inch of it. My shift started at midnight and ended at noon. I'd been on the ship 3 weeks, still learning, still listening to learn what sounds were normal and what signaled problems. The senior engineers told me my ears were my most important tool. That's exactly what saved me on my 20 third night aboard, around 2:30 a.m. I was checking lower engine compartments, pressure levels, temperatures, oil flows. The ship moved smoothly through calm Atlantic waters. Everything seemed normal. Then I heard it. A metallic scraping, rhythmic, weak, coming from behind the main turbine. I thought maybe a panel was loose. But as I moved closer, the sound changed. It became deliberate, not mechanical, almost human, but impossible. No one else should have been there. I checked my radio. No other engineers nearby. I was alone. Following protocol, I grabbed my flashlight and toolkit, tracing the sound. It led me to a vertical maintenance shaft, a narrow passage between decks used for pipes and electrical lines. The shafts are barely wide enough for a person and are always locked from outside with heavy steel hatches. But shaft 7B was different. The hatch was closed, not locked. The scraping came from inside. I called out, no response. The weak, irregular scraping continued. My hands shook as I opened the hatch. The smell hit first. Human waste, blood, something rotten. I shone my flashlight down the shaft, and what I saw will haunt me forever. A man was wedged 10 feet down, contorted unnaturally, one arm bent painfully, face barely visible under layers of grease and dried blood. His clothes were torn and filthy, his eyes open but unfocused, staring at nothing. His right hand scraped weakly against a pipe, the sound I'd heard. He was signaling for help, too weak to do more. Shock froze me. How did a passenger get into a restricted area? How long had he been there? I radioed emergency assistance, voice shaking. Within minutes, the engine room flooded with crew, chief engineer, medical staff, and security. Getting him out was a nightmare. The shaft was too narrow for a stretcher. 2 of us climbed down with harnesses to lift him. Others pulled from above. He was barely conscious, making horrible whimpers, unable to speak. Covered in cuts, bruises, burns from hot pipes. On the deck, under fluorescent lights, his condition became clear. Severely dehydrated, malnourished, covered in filth. Days, maybe longer. Medical staff rushed him to the ship hospital while security tried to identify him. That's when things got stranger. One officer found a crew's card in his torn pants. They scanned it. His name appeared flagged, reported missing 4 days earlier. 4 days trapped in that maintenance shaft while the ship searched. His family panicked. Everyone assumed he went overboard. I couldn't understand it. How did he get into that shaft? The hatches are locked, require crew key cards. Passengers shouldn't even know the shafts exist. Even if he had a key card, why climb down? Nothing made sense. I asked security officers. I was told to return to duties, not discuss it. Confidential matter, but I found him. I heard him scraping, using his last strength to show he was alive. I deserved answers. Rumors spread among the crew despite orders. Intoxicated and wandered in. Suicidal and hiding. Involved in altercation. Nobody knew. Management said investigation ongoing. Focus on jobs. I couldn't. Every shift, walking past shaft 7B, I remembered him. Nightmares followed. Tight spaces, scraping sounds with no source. People wedged in machinery, dying slowly while life went on above. He survived. They airlifted him off the ship at the Azores. Medical staff told me he was critical physically, worse psychologically. He couldn't speak, could only repeat phrases. Nobody told me what. At Southampton, management met me, thanked me, gave bonus, asked me to sign NDA. Public speaking could damage the company. I was young, scared, needed the job. I signed, but it didn't erase what I saw, didn't answer my questions, didn't stop nightmares. For 5 months, anxiety ruled. Every strange noise, every locked hatch, every whisper made me panic. Official story released later. Intoxicated passenger bypassed security, entered restricted area, trapped himself. Cruise line regretted it, improved security, settled with family. Case closed. But I know. That hatch was closed when I found it. If he climbed down, how did it close behind him? Heavy steel hatches close automatically. Emergency release exists inside. Why didn't he use it? If drunk, how past 3 locked doors requiring crew cards? I replay the night thousands of times. Only conclusion, someone else involved. He was chased or put there. A passenger deliberately trapped in a maintenance shaft, left to die while thousands partied above, is horrifying. I never signed another contract. Family disappointed, needed money, but I couldn't go back. I work at a power plant now, solid ground. Nightmares mostly stopped, but sometimes I wake hearing that metallic scraping. I wonder about him. Did he recover? Did family get answers? How many crew found things and were paid or threatened to stay silent? Cruise ships are floating cities with darkness. Restricted areas, secret passages, hundreds of invisible crew. When someone dies or disappears, the priority is protecting the company, the brand, the illusion that cruises are safe. I'm breaking my NDA telling this, could be sued, blacklisted, but I'm tired of carrying this secret. Tired of wondering what really happened to that man. I'm tired of knowing that the cruise industry cares more about profit than truth, reputation over justice, silence over accountability. I found a man left to die in a maintenance shaft. I was paid to forget it, but I can't, I won't, and neither should you. My name is Eliseo, and I'm going to tell you about the 38 hours when I was sure my parents and I were going to die at sea. I'm a 52-year-old nurse from Naples. In November 2022, I convinced my elderly parents to join me on a Mediterranean cruise. My father was 78, my mother 75, and neither had ever been on a ship. I promised them it would be relaxing, beautiful, a chance to see coastlines they'd only read about. I promised them they'd be safe with me. I've been a nurse for 30 years, handling emergencies, staying calm under pressure, saving lives. But nothing in my career prepared me for what happened when nature showed exactly how powerless we really are. We boarded the MSC cruise ship in Barcelona on a gray Sunday morning. The weather forecast warned of rough seas later in the week, but the captain assured everyone during the safety briefing that the ship could handle any conditions. He spoke with confidence, authority. Enough that we believed him. Why wouldn't we? Ships cross oceans all the time. They're engineered for storms. Stabilizers, advanced navigation systems. What could go wrong? Our cabin was on deck 7, modest, with 2 beds and a small sofa bed for me. My parents were excited but nervous, especially my mother, who gets motion sickness in cars. I brought medication for her, telling her she wouldn't feel the waves. For the first 2 days, I was right. The Mediterranean was calm, almost glassy. We visited port cities, ate amazing food, and my parents said it was the best decision they'd ever made. My father joked they should have done it decades ago. The storm hit on the 3rd night at sea, around 2 a.m. I woke to a sensation I'd never felt before. The cabin was moving, not just swaying, tilting at angles that made my stomach drop. Objects slid across surfaces. A loud crash came from the bathroom where bottles fell. My mother was awake, gripping her bed, face pale in dim emergency lights. My father was confused, trying to sit up. The ship tilted again, more violently. I had to grab the wall to keep from sliding. That's when I realized this wasn't normal. This was something else. Through our small porthole, I saw darkness, massive walls of water rising past our windows. Deck 7, 40 feet above water, waves hitting our view. The intercom crackled. The captain's calm voice announced rough seas and told passengers to stay in cabins. He used the phrase normal maritime conditions, told us not to be alarmed, as if the ship tilting at impossible angles wasn't alarming. My nursing instincts kicked in. I kept my parents in bed, wedged pillows so they wouldn't slide, tried to act calm while terrified inside. I've faced storms on land, emergencies, disasters, but being on a ship in the middle of the Mediterranean, feeling the massive structure tossed like a toy, hearing the hull groan under pressure, that's a different kind of fear. It screams at you that you might die. The storm didn't stop. Hour after hour, the ship pitched and rolled. Objects flew, glass shattered. People shouted, children cried. The ship would hang at impossible angles, and I thought, this is it. We're capsizing. Then it would roll back slowly. Around 6 a.m., My mother needed the bathroom. I helped her walk 10 feet. The ship lurched violently. We fell. She hit her head on a desk corner. Blood gushed from a gash above her eyebrow. She was conscious but dazed. Shock was setting in. This is my profession. But handling a medical emergency in a tilting cabin with limited supplies while my mother bleeds in my hands, that's personal. I applied pressure, elevated her head, called the medical bay. No answer. 3 more calls over 20 minutes. Finally, someone picked up amid chaos, alarms, shouting, multiple voices. They said the medical bay was overwhelmed. Unless she was unconscious or hemorrhaging, I should treat her and wait for the storm to pass. I did what I could with bathroom supplies and my first aid kit. Her gash needed stitches, but I stopped the bleeding. She was confused, asking what was happening. Signs of concussion were clear, but I could only keep her awake. Pray we survived long enough for proper care. My father tried to stay strong, but fear was in his eyes. He'd survived wars, poverty, hardships, but this storm terrified him. He watched the porthole, calculating chances of survival, just like I was. Around noon, the captain announced rough weather again, calm, almost condescending. No danger. The ship performing admirably. I wanted to scream. My mother had a head injury. People were hurt. The ship tilted at angles that felt suicidal, and he said nothing was wrong. I decided to move my mother to the medical bay myself. We waited for a relative lull, then entered the corridor. It was chaos. Wet carpets, broken glass, abandoned luggage sliding. Passengers sat in hallways, crying, praying, staring blankly, shocked. Getting to deck 4 required descending 3 flights of stairs while the ship rolled violently. Each step was dangerous. My mother weak, dizzy, bleeding. My father gripping railings behind us, moving carefully. The medical bay was beyond overcrowded. I've worked during disasters, flu season, mass casualties. Never like this. 30 patients, maybe 10 beds. Broken limbs, deep cuts, dislocations, suspected spinal injuries. 3 medical staff triaging. A nurse told me to apply pressure and wait. I argued my mother might have a concussion, needed evaluation. She looked exhausted, desperate, said, "Everyone needs care. Do what you can. We're barely keeping up with people actively dying." Reality hit. We were on our own. I found a corner for my parents, did my best to monitor her as the ship continued violent motion. Conversations around me froze my blood. Furniture in dining hall slid across the room, trapping people. A man thrown against a railing, possibly internal bleeding, elderly with broken hips, children concussed. Chaos everywhere. The storm showed no mercy. Captain's announcements repeated, no truth. Rough weather would pass shortly, he said. Shortly never came. Afternoon turned to evening, evening to night. Waves kept rising. 40-foot swells, I learned later. Enough to make even this massive ship feel fragile. I prayed constantly. Mother's head, father's heart, the hull surviving, that we'd see land. Second night worse, exhaustion, no sleep, no food. The ship felt punished by an angry God, slammed over and over. I believed at multiple points we'd capsize. Angles impossible for physics, yet the ship recovered. Morning of the 3rd day, storm eased. Violent tilting slowed, ship stabilized. People emerged from cabins like war refugees. Pale, exhausted, traumatized, injured. Captain thanked passengers, claimed crew performed admirably, no apology, no acknowledgement of terror, no explanation for sailing into a known storm. At port, mother went to hospital, moderate concussion, stitches. Vertigo remains 2 years later, a permanent reminder of 38 hours. I researched, warnings of severe storm existed. Maritime advisories suggested delay or avoid area. Our captain knew, sailed anyway to stay on schedule, money over safety. When passengers were injured, terrified, ship tilted dangerously, he lied. Normal rough seas. Don't be alarmed. Reputation over life. I've never set foot on a cruise ship since. Parents refuse to even look at brochures. Trauma runs deep. Father nightmares about drowning. Mother panics in moving spaces. I carry guilt for convincing them, promising safety. What haunts me most, what if it had been worse, waves 50 feet instead of 40? Ship tilted further, we were so close to capsizing, another forgotten maritime disaster. Captain's response likely the same, normal maritime conditions, nothing to worry about, until we were at the bottom of the Mediterranean.